Hello, I just want to give you a flavour of my new book called Bittersweet Brexit. It's all about the future of food, farming, land and labour. It's curious we're not hearing very much in the Brexit debate about these issues, yet it is probably the best time to talk about them since the Second World War, or perhaps for 200 years since the Corn Laws were introduced. One of the issues we must discuss is the matter of obesity. Something like 25% of all people in Britain now are classed as obese. We are the fattest country in Europe, and the rise has been inexorable for the past 25 years. The Food Foundation recently said that Brexit will have a triple impact because of exchange rates, labour costs and tariffs, to make it even harder for us to get our healthy food, our 5 a day. And those on low incomes will be particularly badly affected. But let's factor in this unpalatable truth that nobody seems to face up to, is that our healthy food, the fruit and vegetables, are grown in ways that damage the environment, either by using other people's land, labour and water in far-flung fields, or wrecking our best land, and this, in fact, led to the original push for Brexit. Look at these two maps. On the right, this is where the predicted Brexit was going to come from, the deep red areas. Look at the map on the left, and the yellow is the arable areas, corresponding almost exactly. The reason for this is that the arable land is now cropping like plantations. In other words, massive monocultures dependent on migrant workers. So the Brexit offers an opportunity to change matters. At present, £3 billion goes to landowners for doing nothing. Imagine what we could do with that money. We could pay 300,000 land workers £10,000 extra. That would turn their conditions into proper living wages, so that we could do all sorts of things which we're not doing at the moment. It would also help save our arable land. At the moment, 2 million tonnes worth of soil is lost each year from these plantation areas. And something like half the number of soil animals are found under these areas compared with pasture, because pasture land is fertilised by animal muck. I'm particularly concerned about this because I studied these little creatures for my PhD many years ago. But the big thing I tackle in the book is the food trade deficit. We import $66 billion worth of food, leaving another $33 billion worth of deficit. While we can't grow all that ourselves, we could grow a lot more, especially fruit and vegetables, but not in the way we're doing now. This could save, say, $33 billion worth. Can you imagine what that would do to our local economies? As evidenced by Todd Whitten's Incredible Edibles and the National Farmers Union, who show how every pound spent locally sticks to the economy to the tune of 10 times as much. How would that pay for social care without taxes? Quite simply, we grow it ourselves. Coming out of Europe will not be as easy as people crack on. 40% of all directives and regulations apply to food and farming because their standards have to be harmonised across Europe so the food can move around without barriers. There's also the matter of taxes on food coming into Europe because our food and farming is being protected. Something like 2,000 agricultural tariffs and 15,000 tariffs on processed products stop food coming in to protect our farmers. These vary from a few percent to up to 40%, and nobody really seems to be talking about their impacts. However we come out, We're faced with whether we go global or buy British. The government seems hell-bent on increasing food exports. When I talk about food though, it really means booze, especially whiskey and gin. We are good at exporting that stuff. However, I think we should be and could be investing much more in ourselves. Yet somehow the rural voice is not being heard. We're only hearing the sounds of the city. In terms of food sustainability, it's the best thing we could do is to grow more of our own. In the 1980s we imported only 25% of our food, but then it was decided we should leave the food policy to the markets, especially the supermarkets, so that it's been a rundown of 3/4 of all our land-based research stations since then. It means that there is a disproportionate environmental impact abroad compared to here. 70% of all the land used to grow our food occurs abroad. 2/3 of all our greenhouse gases are created abroad. And while I can't get the figures of how much water is used, it's pretty obvious that a lot is used in Africa to grow crops for going to the EU. The best thing we can do for our food footprint is grow our own. There's going to be a number of devolved issues which we can have a say on, genetically modified foods and pesticides being the most obvious. I'm particularly interested in pesticides because I used to be on the advisory committee on pesticides, and I take up the issues which are in common debate at the moment about neonic insecticides and the infamous glyphosate. So if you want to follow more, I'm Clutterbuck Charles1 on Twitter using the tweet #Bittersweet Brexit. There's a website called bittersweetbrexit.co.uk where you can find out more since the book's been published, and you can access the first chapter on that site. Or go to any good online booksellers or the publishers Pluto Press, or contact me directly for mates rates. And finally, thanks Dan.